So at this time, there's great division in politics, in treatment of the pandemic, in views of even like uh, climate change. The question is really, how do we interact with those who do not share our views? And many people get so upset with others that they can't uh, even talk to them. So relatives are no longer welcome. There's no interaction. People talk about, Thanksgiving dinners or Christmas dinners, and basically they really don't even want to go to them because they don't want to hear these uh, statements being made. So how does one get a person to deal with this? I will tell you the story I had. Um, we were moving from North Carolina to Indiana, and a moving truck came to our house in North Carolina, and my wife Sue was already in Indiana. And the driver walks into the house and says, "You look like an academic." And in general, that used to be a positive statement. You look like an academic. And he says, "No, I don't like academics. They have these very biased views in the world." And initially, I started to get into a dialogue. And then I realized there was no dialogue to be had, that he had a whole set of views. And that this was during the primary, the 2016 primary. And he said that his person was Ted Cruz, and he started talking about that he wasn't even. I thought we had common ground if I talked about minimum wage, no, and he's not even that. And he didn't want his kids going to college because they would be exposed to liberal views. So I just started to listen to him go on and on and on. He then left and then he went to Indiana and he saw my wife. He said, "Great conversation with your husband," is what he said. Now, what it was an important point that was one of the first times in my life that I realized that discussing or arguing was a waste of time, but it didn't mean the person was an evil person. And what I did was I was an effective witness. I listened to that person. I didn't try to change the person's mind. I respected his viewpoints. And I think that's part of what's going on. I think people want to be heard and they don't want to be humiliated by being told they're wrong, but they want to be heard. I think if we go back to the concept of a trauma survivor, what does a trauma survivor really want? A trauma survivor wants to be witnessed, wants to have a voice. And so much of the reaction to trauma has been to take the voice away from the survivor. So we want, in a sense, we want to know the events, the judicial consequences of what may have happened to the person. We're not focusing on how that person is feeling. So we need to become good witnesses. So I'm really saying that we may not agree. And in most cases, or in many cases, we don't agree on these things. But we certainly have to have a degree of understanding that we can witness the other person's statements. It may be difficult to even witness their perspective, but they want to express their feelings and they want that space to say, "This is how I feel." It's a powerful thing if we can do it. If we have, in a sense, if we're not interpreting the words and we're not getting mad. And I frequently talk about people who are super co-regulators. And they walk into a room and it doesn't matter what someone is saying or what dialogue is going on, and suddenly everyone feels just comfortable and safe in their presence. And so when people say, "Are you a super co-regulator?" I say, "Absolutely not. But I'm a good enough co-regulator most of the time." The point is that I am vulnerable like most people or many people, but there are some super co-regulators out there and we learn a lot from them. And that is that ability to allow the other person to say their part, not to step on their words, not to tell them they're wrong, not to evaluate them, but to, in a sense, witness them.